So if there are alders that want to put up on the board to raise the property taxes, and they're going to have to go out and find 26 votes to do that. And even if they find 26 votes, I'm vetoing it.
It's Mayor Brandon Johnson in Chicago talking about how he's going to veto any budget that the city council approves that includes property tax increases. This, as the mayor is looking to increase a whole host of taxes, including a head tax, which would possibly cost some businesses tens of thousands of dollars extra a year, if not more. So what's going to happen in the city of Chicago as they get closer to that end of year deadline to pass a budget with the prospects of $1 billion+ of debts that they're going to go into the next year with? Well, it could be more tax increases. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. You can go to thecentersquare.com. Check out the headline from the Center Square's Jim Talamonte. Chicago Council Committee rejects mayor's proposed tax hikes. And we'll go through this with you here. And of course, you can read it for yourself and get it in your inbox by going to thecentersquare.com and sign up for the newsletter. So the Chicago City Council Committee on Finance rejecting a package of higher taxes proposed by Mayor Brandon Johnson. After the committee voted 25-10 against Johnson's revenue package Monday afternoon, the mayor refused to back down from his proposed corporate head tax. And you can read some of the comments there. Mayor Johnson, he went in front of the press and talked about a whole host of things, and including asked questions by the press, and he apparently is dodging, at least according to one reporter's perspective here.
So just to be clear, you are not backing down on the head tax whatsoever. It's going to be in your budget.
I'm not backing down in protecting working people. Right, that's the
part.
That's
kind of dodging the question. If you
no, it's not.
Well, are you? Is the head tax going to stay in your budget?
I just said though, Greg. I just said that we're not. I'm going to veto a budget that increases property taxes, and I'm challenging those with the means, these large corporations, to pay their fair share in taxes. This community safety charge does just that.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
So again, you heard the mayor there taking a question from a reporter about whether or not he's going to continue to support the head tax. What does the head tax do? Well, the mayor's plan would impose a $21 per worker monthly tax on businesses with 100 employees or more, although there have been discussions about some workers being exempted. A business with exactly 100 employees would pay $2,100 a month, or $25,200 annually. So you can see how that would add up real quick for businesses in Chicago. Some have said, listen, something like that is going to cause businesses to flee the city of Chicago. And some pointing that businesses are already fleeing Chicago with a whole host of concerns, from high property taxes, high crime in some areas. Johnson being asked about what's driving businesses.
People aren't coming downtown. Property values go down. Doesn't that hurt homeowners in Englewood and in Austin even further, as the Pappas's report seemed to indicate?
Well, look, I try not to live in hypothetical. I'm a Bears fan, so I try to live in like real practical terms. Here's what I believe folks are missing who have that particular vantage point. The reason why, first of all, the vacancy exists is because obviously we're still recovering from the pandemic. There is no correlation between taxation and the success, if you will, of corporations.
And I just want to pause there for a moment. He says they're still recovering from the pandemic as to why their business hasn't bounced back as fast. And Illinois, for some reason, lags the rest of the country when it comes to rebounding from economic downturns. And we can go back to in the 2007-2008 housing crisis. It took Illinois more than a decade to bounce back. After COVID, we have gotten to the point pre-COVID, but again, it took Illinois longer to get to economic levels than the rest of the country after the pandemic and the government-imposed shutdowns and so on. So Johnson's saying they're still recovering from the pandemic. That's why there's empty storefronts. Just, it's interesting to hear that perspective, especially now in 2020 the tail end, when the pandemic was 2020, 2021 in Illinois. Governor Pritzker had executive orders and emergency declarations keeping the pandemic enforcement of certain types of business restrictions for like 2.5 years. So after that, it was everything's open, everything's ready to go. So here we are again, late 2025. Are we really still recovering from the pandemic? Again, back to the mayor.
We do know, though, is there is a correlation between safety and population and businesses. This is about ensuring that we do the work that strengthens our city as a much safer place to live and do business. Keep in mind, this community safety surcharge is going to go towards the area that everybody knows is the most important thing, which is to ensure that we're driving violence down on the city of Chicago. There's more evidence of community safety driving business and people out than any of the speculations that they're making.
So again, it seems to be just completely dismissing economists who point to, listen, if you've got high taxes in one area and low taxes in another area, the businesses are going to invest in the places where they've got lower taxes. And that's going to mean more jobs for that area. That's going to mean more tax revenue from those jobs for government services, as opposed to an area and a jurisdiction, even if it is a large hub like Chicago with higher taxes and a whole host of other issues, including funding governments that can't live within its means, like the city of Chicago, looking at $16.6 billion, I believe, in a budget for next year, and they're estimating a $1.5 billion deficit for that budget. So where's the cuts going to come from? And again, the mayor talking about a head tax, and here he is discussing the position that he has and the posture that he has versus others taking different positions about the head tax.
I want to make something again absolutely clear. This budget is meant and designed to protect the working people of this great city, and I will use every single tool available to me and stand by our power to ensure that working families no longer have to bear the burden of a budget being balanced off of their backs. Thank you.
Right,
so the mayor taking some questions and asked about the other taxes he has, right? The head tax, and he says that's to help take the burden off of working families. You've got a streaming services tax and a whole host of other things. More from the mayor's Q&A with members of the press yesterday.
The personal property lease tax / the cloud tax.
Yep.
There are a lot of small business folks who say that's a tax on working people. That's going to sock working people. Small business owners leasing property, leasing cloud computing software. Would you consider amending that proposal?
I have not heard working people say that to me. Who are you talking to?
I've talked to a couple business owners and some aldermen that have called out that PPLT in the cloud tax.
I have not heard. First of all, it doesn't affect working people the way in which it's being described. We're talking about an industry that's making more money than they even imagine. So I would, if next time you talk to those auditors, tell them to text me and we can have a conversation about it.
The conversation, though, in the committee that rejected the mayor's tax proposals seem to be, no, they don't support these ideas. And you've got more taxes being discussed and what they're going to possibly do in the city of Chicago if they don't get these tax increases.
Here's what I do know. It's property taxes, garbage fees, grocery taxes, or layoffs. Or we can actually protect working people. That's what this budget does.
You said you'd veto any proposal that has a property tax increase. Will you veto any proposal that doesn't have a corporate head tax?
The question is really, can you pass a budget without requiring large corporations to pay their fair share in taxes? I mean, folks will attempt to. I don't know how you do that. In fact, look, just this past weekend, I was on the west side of Chicago where I live. I was at Aspire and Zoe Life Ministries. I'm talking about hundreds of people in line for food and toilet paper. For food and toilet paper. Now, these alders who represent communities like North Lawndale and Inglewood, who saw a 100%, almost 100%, 80% increase in their property taxes, and their families are in lines for food and toilet paper, and you're asking me, should I place a greater burden on them? If that's what the question is, I'm not going to do that. These large corporations have an opportunity to put more skin in the game. We cannot balance this budget off the backs of working and poor people.
So again, the question was, will you veto a budget that does not include the corporate head tax? He said he'd veto a budget that includes the property tax, but what about that corporate head tax? Again, corporate head tax that's possibly going to cost an employer with just 100 employees $25,200 per year. All right. So Johnson said Chicago's elevated numbers of downtown office vacancies, not the result of high taxes. But Reed Smith, a partner at David Dorner, said a head tax is not the way to bring people into Chicago. He told Jim Talamonte with the Center Square that he thinks it's going to keep people out of the city when we want to bring them back in and have people working here, coming downtown, visiting the downtown businesses. You don't want to give them a reason not to come to the office, and that's what the head tax would do. In addition to the corporate head tax, the mayor's $16.6 billion spending plan includes new taxes on social media, sports betting, and boat mooring. Dorner said the mayor's cloud tax or lease tax would affect the lease, rental, or use of computer software or cloud infrastructure. Interesting to note, apparently there's some downages on websites this morning that's caused by a service called Cloudflare. So just kind of interesting. We're talking about that as that's going on as well. But back to the story here. Dorner said increasing the tax to 15% would impact businesses and individuals who pay for software licenses. And he says, as you can imagine, businesses spend a lot on their budget and technology, including software services, that are going to subject that to higher tax. If passed by the city of Chicago, it's already 11%. It's not long ago, it was 9%. So the mayor asked about a whole host of other things and just continued back and forth. But really, when it comes down to it, they've got the clock ticking for them to get the budget proposal on the mayor's desk and approved before it starts January 1st. It's always fascinating. We'll be hearing a lot more about this with Chicago City Council meeting scheduled today, I believe. And the Center Square's Jim Talamonte is going to be on top of that. So go to thecentersquare.com. Get the latest headlines in your inbox, but you can wake up with us each and every weekday morning for the latest with Illinois in Focus Daily.